Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. This video is about the teaching language of the Bible and how I don't approve of it. Bear with me. Point number 1. The authors of the Bible should have made the teaching language and code of the Bible clear from the first chapter. This is made more clear by the fact that people claim that they are explaining the true interpretation of the Bible in churches and other places. So, in other words, when they're talking about the water, the cloud, the trees, the figs, the fig leaves, why fig leaves, right? There's a code in the Bible. And the Bible should start off by explaining to you that there's a code there so you can appreciate it and you can learn from it. And you can understand what they're really getting at. Instead, they teach you in a way so they can control you and abuse you and pretend that they're the experts of the divine knowledge, but they're not. They are just people who know the game well. It's the difference between the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. Actually living the true teachings in the Bible versus being just another church guy who studied it for many years, who probably understands the code to a certain degree, but they don't truly understand what it's getting at. They don't truly grasp the meaning of it, or they'd be prepared to die for God on the drop of a hat, but they're not. Okay. And in some cases in the Bible it says flat out that Jesus was speaking figuratively. Okay? He meant things figuratively. By water he meant the Spirit, what have you. And the word wind, the word for wind in Greek, is the same as the word for spirit. And that's key. That is very key. It points in Proverbs 30, verse 4, where it says, whose hands have gathered up the wind? Who holds the wind in his fist? New Living Translation. Who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak? And it connects to Isaiah 59, where it says he wrapped himself in zeal as in a cloak. So there should be a part in the Bible that shows these connections clearly. It's at the beginning of the book. And the original Bible, whatever it was, okay, whatever council came up with it, history talks about the Council of Nicaea and stuff like this, but whatever process actually took place, which is concealed to some degree, I'll tell you that, they should have made it so that it was clear from the start. But the Romans, in their tradition of treachery and half-truths, and a half-truth is a lie, they made the book to deceive people. Point number 2. One has to be a complete idiot to think that Christians, with all their divisions and falsehood, are miraculously doing the right thing, when their own book says narrow is the way to life and broad is the path to destruction. Few find the way to life and many people find the path to destruction. It spells it out for you. Point number 3. One would have to be a complete idiot if, when they heard the argument that it is not logical for God to expect you to believe so-called miracles, so-called literal miracles that occurred well before you were born, before your parents and their parents were born, before their parents were born. It doesn't make any sense. For example, if you were King Solomon and you were in court, and somebody said that the proof that a crime has taken place, okay, is in the testimony of the biggest liars in human history, a book made by the biggest liars in human history, the Romans and the Western colonialists, okay? Would you then say, well, that's all the proof I need? No. Who gave you this book? Says who, right? Says who? The Romans and their descendants, the Western colonists? Okay, that's fucking insane. That's not proof. David proved his point to the Philistines and to the Jews right there and then. Okay? Christ, all these prophets who, Elijah, they proved their points immediately, for the most part. When it mattered most, they proved that it was logical to believe them. They proved that they were going to do what they said they were going to do. Elijah, Jesus, John the Baptist died for what he believed in a way that was believable. The Bible says that Abraham believed God and it was credited him as righteousness. Why? Because he was willing to sacrifice his son. So he proved that he was loyal to God. It's proof, all throughout the Bible. But they expect you to believe a miracle that happened before you were born, or that the spirit in your churches, with all their psychology and technology and treachery and all the kids being molested in churches all the time, all over the places, and by the church congregation, all the sins of the congregation, that their spirit is magically holy and that their interpretation is magically true? No. That's not logical. And in fact, the miracles are not literal. So when you see the argument made, hey, the miracles aren't literal. That's why the people who wrote the Bible were making the argument that if you read the Bible enough and you really think about the importance of morality, that you're going to do what's right. And you're not going to trust the churches. That was the argument they're subtly making. They're making the argument that, hey, if they actually care about God when they read the Bible, they're not going to be fooled by the churches and by the scum like them who lied to them about God. That they're instead going to say the throne is established in righteousness, Proverbs 16:12. It's even called Proverbs. These are sayings for you to think about. If you're lost in the story and you say, what should I do? You go to Proverbs and say, what are the core morals and what are the hidden teachings? What are the proverbial teachings of the Bible? And it starts off by saying that it's a book to understand the rest of the Bible. However, it is not reasonable to just give them the book and say, hey, good luck, pal, or to explain it the way they're explaining it in the churches. They're lying. And so the Bible should start off by saying that water, quite often in the Bible, refers to the Spirit of God. It refers to well-being and righteousness and justice and the various components of the Spirit of God. One of the most important things it should say at the beginning is that the cloud that Christ comes back on is not literal. The miracles of Christ, okay, when we're talking about changing water to wine, resurrecting a dead person, walking on water, they're not literal. And they should show you the various scriptures, like in Proverbs, that says, in the Lord's hand, the king's heart is a stream of water that he channels to those who please him. Now let's look at this thing. Some of you say, well, we like it how it is. Imagine the monster, the rapist, the guy who rapes kids, who would argue that he likes it how it is. That confusion has caused people to be confused in general, including in regards to what to do about the fact that kids are being raped in church. They get ripped off when they buy cars, when they buy homes, when they buy clothes. Their kids go to school and they turn to drugs and on and on and on and on. Why? Because they're in a scatterbrained and confused state of mind. Why is martial arts about order? Because you can't accomplish anything really worthwhile and effective, that's worth pursuing in a scatterbrained state of mind. Even the word intimate, right? Intimacy means intimate. Intimate. How? By being focused on that person. Imagine you're going on a date and they're like, oh, oh yeah, oh, that's cute. They're like, bitch, what the fuck's wrong with you? You see what I'm saying? And so it is with martial arts and the Bible and God. The Bible is written in a way that causes people to be in a trance-like, double-think state of mind. In fact, I kind of messed up when I said earlier, okay, I said that, that it should be at the beginning of the Bible. In fact, that should be there at the beginning of the Bible, yeah. But the Bible should not be the book that you use. The book that you should use should have words that refer to what they're talking about. When they're talking about the Spirit, they say this, the Spirit. And in the beginning of that, it said the Spirit is like water because of X, Y, and Z. Well, they should be pointing right directly to what they're talking about. Instead of when you read Proverbs 34, you're like, I'm thinking water, I'm thinking Spirit, I'm thinking, wind, I'm thinking Spirit, I'm thinking, cloak and zeal, and it confuses the brain, which over time has a negative effect. And Bel is a deity of confusion. His counterpart is Set and Zeus, storms, rape, confusion. The principles of evil. And the Bible is by Bel. By Bel. A deity of confusion. In fact, bisexual is being confused about your orientation. Okay? Are you what you should be? No offense to the LGBT community. Heterosexual, according to God and the prophets, will say. To keep it simple. According to me too, but I don't want to break the rules on YouTube, so I'm trying to be polite about this as I can. If you have a counter argument, please put it in the comments. I'm not trying to hate the LGBT community. Not in the legal form of the saying, because again, it goes back to the Bible, where Jacob, he loved, Esau he hated, and said God doesn't hate anybody in popular culture, but he hated Esau. He hates the wicked. He hates the perverse in heart. They're an abomination to him. And King David in God's Spirit hated the evil too. Read Psalms. So they confuse these things. It's a wordplay game like the Freemasons. It's an occult wordplay game. Instead of pointing right to the thing in a way that's definitive. Imagine you're in a sword fight and you're confused about what to do. You're confused about everything. You're going to die. And so it is life. Life is like a sword fight. Get your thoughts together, man. And when people are trying to throw other people off so they can argue their thoughts are more together than theirs, okay? And they're like, yes, we are English. We have it together. They don't have it together. Get it together, man. She should date me. You should see through their bitch.